Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the studio Cyberwatch Finland. I have the great pleasure of welcoming Harri Sundvik, the Executive Chairman of XXLSEC. Harri, you are a former banker. Why cybersecurity? Why you have an interest in cybersecurity?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for the invitation, Aapo. And I guess I've had sort of few interactions with cybersecurity over the years, and probably the most significant goes back to early days of the sort of new millennium, 2000. I did quite a bit of work for Nokia at the time, and they always had the tremendous success with the sort of sale of mobile devices. And what happened was a happy meeting in the sort of corridors of the Keilaniemi office, and there was a discussion that how is the new Nokia going to look like? And one of the premises was we're going to go not just be great in consumer devices, but actually go to what is called the enterprise. And in that context, through a long process, the theme was developed that one of the sort of cornerstones of enterprise has to be security. And I had the privilege of working with the team at the time. We were analyzing a number of security companies at the time, very sort of traditional IT services names that have had sort of presence in that space. And so I was sort of working on acquisitions from a corporate finance standpoint. The second, and I don't know if this is glorious or not, but back in 2006, when I started working for Bank of America, Merrill Lynch in their European leadership team, you should have been there because they were a bit of sort of comic in the sense that there was, when the technology discussion started and the CTO came to the room, increasingly the presentation was about some technology investment which happened to have a sort of security angle to it. And I could say without default, each and every conversation about cybersecurity, we always ask, where do we sign? Because everybody realized this is important. And the last one, a couple of years ago, my long-term friend, Simo Salminen, had sort of teamed up with some of his technology contacts and had started working on sort of new concepts in cybersecurity. And he did the mistake of saying, look, why don't you join? Why don't you come to think about this space in a more concrete way? I just left banking at that time. So to be clear, I'm an ex-banker, not a banker anymore. So the last couple of years I've been in the sort of front line and indeed had that huge pleasure and privilege also working with you on some customer cases. Kind of bit of a circle, but that's the summary.
Yeah, that's a funny and fascinating story. So you just were looking where to shine. So in a way, the role of the human being is there already.
Absolutely.
So it's about the knowledge. It's not about the technology. So it has been very technological driven, the whole cybersecurity, and now we are looking at more in a comprehensive manner, looking at the people and interaction of it and our way of working, and especially perhaps now when we have Corona and we have been remotely working. You have been in London and we have been here, and we have been working together with some of our clients. So this is a huge change, and actually I think the challenge we are all facing is that we have to be more educated. We have to have better awareness. We have to have better knowledge on cybersecurity.
Absolutely. And I think I would just summarize the complexity has gone one way. I mean, you know this, I do. And but equally, the good news is that there are more tools in the sort of toolbox today. In the old world, it was just the sort of firewall and the sort of software upgrade. Make sure your password is sort of updated, sort of stuff. I mean, that's way gone. Today, obviously, as I said, complexity has gone one way, but equally there are more tools available. So,
indeed. So the simple things have been done, and now we are facing the complexity. So, what about the zero trust? Your company is very much focusing or zero trust.
Yeah.
Who are you going to rely on in the future?
Well, this is maybe I could take a sort of step back. I think the whole concept of zero trust was the one that kind of really got my attention when I joined XXL Security. And there is, in the sort of space of cybersecurity, this is a kind of specific school of thought. And I think it's very, very timely, and actually I think I can see the world just moving one way. It's going to be more and more important. In the old world, when people and companies met, there was that sort of assumption that these are honest people, they're working hard, we have the same agenda. There's really not much to worry about unless you got the signal that something is wrong. The new world, in some way, is, one could say, it's a bit sort of sad, but it's kind of opposite, that there is almost that assumption, at least sort of corporate level, that actually, as a banker, I always love to say, you need to do your due diligence. In other words, you need to find out who these people are, what they do, what they've done, you know, what are some of the integrity issues. So the zero trust is a sort of fundamental working assumption. Now, again, good news, bad news. Bad news, actually, living in the world of zero trust means that you need to do some work that in the old world you didn't necessarily have to do, but in the new world, there's going to be a sort of upfront investment, and it's going to take a bit of time, and it's going to test your patience. But that's the only way to find out who you're dealing with. Can you sort of trust the other party? And then obviously in the work you and I do, there's always a question that you are recommending somebody to somebody else. So you are essentially, I always like to say that you kind of, there's a sort of degree of your personal equity when you do that sort of recommendation. And I think the zero trust, the focus on the zero trust has actually highlighted and taken that to the next level. What you and I have been talking about this.
In other words, perhaps we can say that security culture in the past, it was just a matter for the security companies. But nowadays the security culture and especially cybersecurity culture is for everyone. So I mean that's for corporations and companies, they have to really build their own cybersecurity culture. And it means that zero trust means that you have to have the security culture. If you don't have the security culture, you are not able to build cybersecurity on the top, and then you are not able to do your business in the right way, combining and seeing all the threats, and you have to do it in the diplomatic way.
Absolutely.
You can't just go to the meetings and first idea is what is wrong with you.
Correct.
So you have to really build the trust. So this is very confidential. So cybersecurity is a confidential business, and zero trust had to be behind, and it's part of the culture of your company.
Yeah, I think the culture is actually the right word, because it also means it's sort of transparent, acceptable. That's the way of working, isn't it? So I think in the new world, and again, you and I have been in front of some important people the last 12 months, and people have sort of come to the place to realize that zero trust has to be the model. And maybe a few years back, when you were asking certain basic things, people were saying, you know, what is wrong with you? now it's just sort of moved on. My only comment to your previous one is when you mentioned that cybersecurity has come to the sort of center. That actually has taken place in the back of the fact that technology has come to the center of any enterprise, of any even government agency, or any sort of defense organization. It used to be the IT department was somewhere in the back, you know, corner.
Exactly.
But now it actually has moved to the center. So.
And actually also zero trust is applicable to technology.
Very much so
you have to be able to trace and see if you have any backdoors. And I think that's something what your company is promoting, that it's open. You can trace and see that there are no backdoors in your systems.
Absolutely.
And that's actually should be self-evident if you look security matters. So.
Yeah. Very much so. Very much so. So you obviously have an interesting journey yourself. I was describing a bit mine, but how did sort of cybersecurity come to your agenda, given your military and defense defense background and that whole...
Well, that must be an accident. Indeed. So I actually, of course, we have been in the military. We have been for decades speaking about electronic warfare, which is basically actually the term from the past, and it's just the other part of the coin. So, but then when we built the first security strategy for Finland, so the whole of society, how the whole of society approach is working. And then we realized that okay, this is a good strategy, but cybersecurity, it was 2010, we finalized this strategy, we realized that, well, but cyber, what is cyber? And then we had to convince the Finnish government. I was that time the Secretary General of the Finnish Security Committee, and then we have to convince Prime Minister Jyrki Katainen and others that this is something, it's a must. Yep. And it came then to the program of the government at that time. And then we started to look, and then we realized that at the national level, there had to be the policy, there had to be the strategy. It's a backbone, it's an offering for private sector, it's an offering, and it gives impetus to the work of the authorities. So otherwise, because fundamentally security is the task of government, and you have to be able to promote security. Yeah. And that's how I came in, and then I've been working in many other countries and in a way promoting the Finnish model. Yeah. Actually, thanks to Nokia, Finland has been lucky. So we have a good, and actually because of the technological background, we have a good starting point for cybersecurity. But now the challenges are changing, and we have to do more.
Very much so.
And perhaps in that way we come to the digital independence, so which is actually, which everyone is talking in Europe, but very few know what should be done. So,
absolutely.
Harri, what is our message?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is fascinating. This is obviously a relatively new thing, and it's interesting, and it obviously links to what's happening in the sort of kind of global scene. So the latest, obviously, on that front is that we've seen the sort of Chinese initiative to develop their own internet. We obviously heard the same from Russia. And then when you now are listening to the sort of Brussels talk, including Germany, France, I mean, they're saying, look, there need to be real sort of European independent sovereignty in terms of digital platforms. So this is kind of happening as we speak. And I don't know who invented the word, but 12 months ago, nobody had the word. Now it's just as a matter of EU policy, as a matter of security policy, it's very much in the sort of heart. And I'd love to talk to the present government how they are thinking about it. But this must be something that is coming a bit from the sort of left field, but suddenly is sort of in the front of thinking about sort of strategy and how you invest and how do you make sure that you develop what you would call sort of sustainability as a matter of your national strategy.
Yeah, but it's the role of the EU. But one country like Finland, we can't do it. So we are not a superpower. But how to get the common understanding in EU? EU has been criticized that the EU is creating too much regulation on the cyber strategies. They are mainly regulation, and digitalization is perhaps too much regulated. So how? Of course, it's a good starting point, and nothing wrong with that. But how we guarantee that the European companies, cybersecurity companies and others, that they are competitive with others who are looking this differently. So.
Yeah, and it's going to be a challenge in the current environment, given the economic framework. So how do you? It's going to be interesting that how does the sort of cybersecurity, how is it going to get its sort of warranted investment when, as you well know, the national balances are way out of where they should be. So this is going to be heavily tested, but it's interesting even in the present environment seeing that this aspect is being sort of promoted at the sort of European level. So what's the space?
We and perhaps you have a crystal ball, and we should be looking what is happening. What are the future challenges? So it always they're saying that the generals are preparing the previous war. But what is happening in the future? So how EU and Europe could in a way make the leap and come a forerunner in this digital environment and digital independence. I think that's perhaps where we should find new tools and ways of working together.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously a key sort of consideration. I think my sense is that what's going to happen is that the demand is so huge, the need for advancement is urgent. So this is the sort of kind of prime opportunity for newcomers to come, and I think it's going to mean that the sort of big players who've been dominating the sort of IT and services world, in some way, they're already playing defense because they realize that they can do certain things, they have their sort of scope and expertise, but actually a lot of the invitation is going to come from the sort of smaller players. And I think that's if you link that to the sort of EU perspective, I hope they understand that dynamic, because that obviously has huge implications as to where the investment needs to go. And I think the sort of support smaller enterprises, very sort of development-orientated enterprises is going to be key for success. Otherwise, this game is going to be won by other parties.
So in a way, Europe is having a golden opportunity now after the corona crisis. So if we are investing to European cybersecurity companies, which are in the global scale very small, but they have better innovation than the big technological giants like we have seen. Most of the applications we are using, they are not coming from Europe.
Absolutely.
So perhaps now it's time for change, and perhaps also we here in Finland we can contribute and be active in promoting our innovation. Perhaps that could be the way ahead.
Now you're talking to governments, you are talking to people in the military defense. What is your sense of? You were asking about my crystal ball. What does your ball say? Crystal ball.
Well, it's a bit blurry, but
you need to clean it up.
I would follow actually what we discussed. The cybersecurity culture. My crystal ball is saying that if Finland and if the Finnish companies are able to create better cybersecurity culture than others, then we are going to be the winners. So you have to be able to see and combine the technological solutions, better technologies, and then better educated people. Cybersecurity has to be part of the all level of education, and then we have to change our way of working. And actually, Corona have helped us to figure out that what are the new opportunities. And then on the top, I mean, it's about the leadership.
Yeah.
We come. Where is the national cybersecurity leadership? And in every company, who is the cybersecurity leader? They had to be the leadership. Cybersecurity is part of your crisis management system. So you have to be able, because it's always a crisis if you have a serious cyber incident.
Absolutely.
And then it's actually part of the new normal we are facing. So part of the new normal, you have to be able to handle the small scale incidents, and you have to train your people. So you need new games, cybersecurity games. Gaming is one. Exercises, and first of all, education. Knowledge is anyway it is the cheapest and most effective way to improve your level of cybersecurity. But again, it's not just one step. You have to combine all the small steps in one big and comprehensive approach, which you are using. Yeah, so that's what my ball is saying. So
I think it makes good sense for me. But the interesting thing in your commentary is that there is the sort of, if you like, knowledge level. Ultimately, question is how do you change the behavior of companies and people? That's
well, I think
that's the difficult
the corona
part.
Crisis is a living example that this is possible. Yeah. Without corona, we wouldn't be in a situation that most of the people they are working with the Teams program, with Zoom, everything. We just have to be able that now the security again has been a little bit taken out. We have to bring the security, so we have to have the culture. We know what is sensitive, what is not sensitive, and how to protect and looking how the critical infrastructure services, it's a main target for the cyber attack. So we have to be able to safeguard the diamonds of the societies, the diamonds of the company, and that's the way we can do. I don't know. You have been in UK. Is the UK approach different compared to the Finnish? So there is perhaps a stronger heritage and culture than we have in Finland. I don't know.
I don't think it's any different. At least with the sort of companies I work with and sort of environment as such. I think the question is, the fact that people, rather than being in the offices, have those sort of workstations as home. I think it's sort of highlighted the sort of personal responsibility for the security aspect of it. How do you operate and stuff? But look, this is the same global scene, and particularly the big companies. Look, they have their global policies and stuff, so it's not really sort of country driven as such.
I know you have been working also with happiness and with
indeed my favorite topic.
So let's finalize this conversation because some people have been now complaining that because you are not having your social contacts in this corona times. But we should be more happy. So how we combine cybersecurity and happiness? Wow,
that's an interesting one. I guess my first reaction is that there's a degree of knowledge that sort of gives you some sense of security. I think another angle is that when you are actively sort of engaged in the sort of positive solutions, I think that's significant. I think what is somewhat disturbing me in some of the cybersecurity conversation is that it's so much focused on the sort of horrible things that can happen. I've had the privilege of working with you. My sense is that you are in the sort of positive camp. It's all about solutions. Yes, the issues are there, but this is not the full story. There are ways. So I think that's another dimension of that sort of happiness in terms of cybersecurity. And my third component was, you remember my favorite happiness word, PERMA, P-R-M-A. The middle R stands for relationships. And to me, it really means that relationships matter, but equally you need to find out when you interact with people, you interact with companies. Again, relationship matters. In other words, you need to do homework. You need to know who you do business with, and I think that's a key element of cybersecurity happiness. I'm inventing the word as we go.
Okay. I think this makes sense. So if you can rely on your cybersecurity, you are more happy, and then in the way the bad things, they are not spoiling your days.
Indeed.
So.
And there are sort of 3 tests, and this I'm not going to charge anything for this advice, but I've learned some time ago. But the 3 questions that you need to ask every day. Ideally in the evening as you look into your day, but this actually has the security cyber dimension. First question, did you live? Second question, did you love? And number 3, did you make a difference? Those are the sort of questions I think as I look at my day, and I think that has some implication to the way how I'm kind of living my day, how I try to kind of bring life to what I'm doing, and as I said, I would go back to this sort of solution orientation rather than problem orientation. You do need to recognize the issues, but I think you need to be focused on the solutions.
Exactly. I agree. So happiness comes through the success stories, and if we can make a change, then people are more happy and clients are more happy. So let's continue our work on cybersecurity.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, Harri Sundvik.
Great to have the conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aapo.